Can I say something to you? Listen, you was really something back there. Incredible. Are you talking to me? Yes, I was talking to you. Can I just tell you that you was really great back there? And those guards, they thought it was all that. Then you showed up and bam, they were tripping over themselves like babes in the woods. See that? That really made me feel good to see that. Oh, that's great. Really. Man, it's good to be free. Now, why don't you go celebrate your freedom with your own friends? But I don't have any friends.
And I'm not going out there by myself. Hey, wait a minute, I got a great idea. I'll stick with you.
You a mean green fighting machine. Together we'll scare the spit out of everybody that crosses us.
I like Shrek.
Welcome to the Perfect Movie Podcast, the podcast that lived with our auntie and uncle in Bel Air. I'm Michael.
I'm Caitlin.
And today, we are covering I Am Legend as part of our Nuclear November Apocalypse series. I Am Legend is a movie starring Will Smith.
Everybody's favorite slappy boy.
Number one slapper. Came out in 2007. Kaylin, what is your history, and how do you feel about I Am Legend?
I almost feel like the first time I ever watched this movie was at your house.
Probably.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I feel like it was. And this movie used to scare the shit out of me when I was younger. I always really liked this movie up until I watched it recently. And, yeah, I have a lot of problems with it.
Okay.
I don't think Will Smith is very compelling in this either. Which is funny because most people remember this for his performance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a hard time watching this one.
So this comes in an era of Will Smith. So we have Will Smith, like there's the Bel Air Will Smith and the like rap Will Smith. That's like the first phase. Yep. And then in like the later 90s, he starts becoming like also movie star Will Smith. He's in Independence Day. He's the co-star of Men in Black. But those are, they have other things going on, and Will Smith is in it, and he's magnetic, but he's not the star. No. And then, I think just before this, we have like iRobot.
Well, before that, you had Bad Boys.
Yeah, there's Bad Boys. I forgot to mention Bad Boys. But again, that's a two-headed monster. That's Martin Lawrence, and that's Will Smith. And then we go on this run of Will Smith is the only man in this movie. Yeah. Will Smith is in iRobot. Yeah. Will Smith is in an I Am Legend. And then, like, this whole arc crashes and burns at the very end with, what's the Shyamalan movie with After Earth?
With his son.
Where it's just Will Smith is just with Jaden Smith.
Yeah, yeah.
And I Am Legend is smack dab in the middle of that and might be the best movie of that group. Or another solo big Will Smith movie was Hancock.
Pursuit of Happiness.
Pursuit of Happiness was like his Oscar bait version.
Mm-hmm.
But this is, I Am Legend is firmly in the, like, we're making a PG-13 movie that hopefully is the biggest movie ever.
Yeah.
And it's starring Will Smith, probably one of the biggest movie stars of, like, this mid-2000s, late 2000s period. He's still, like, one of the few bankable stars that are around.
I mean, this movie, I'm pretty sure it was a banger when it came out. It says that it grossed $585 million worldwide.
Yeah.
So I do remember this kind of not being a phenomenon, but it was like definitely one of the biggest movies to come out that year. So.
I want to say it set a record for December movie releases for like how much it grossed during that month.
It's true. Technically, this is a Christmas movie.
Technically a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just an interesting time in Will Smith's career, and it's a Will Smith movie. It's almost entirely just Will Smith for, 50 minutes of the hour and a half runtime.
And his dog, Sam.
Yeah. That's the two-hander and some CGI effects, and that's the whole movie.
Would you say this was peak Will Smith?
It's peak as far as popularity. I agree with you that I think that this is not maybe the role for Will Smith.
Right.
You mentioned, and I Am Legend is based on a book. You mentioned in text. You haven't mentioned yet on the podcast. There's a book that I Am Legend is based on, and there's also been 2 movies. And I haven't seen either of them, but there's one called Omega Man starring Charlton Heston.
Yes.
And that seems like the type of actor that should be like the last man on earth type of role. Somebody a little more brooding, somebody a little more intense.
Yeah.
Will Smith's trying to bring that, but Will Smith's the Fresh Prince. Like, Will Smith is best in his Bad Boys, best in his Men in Black.
Well, he's always the charismatic guy.
Yeah.
And so when you have him by himself, you lose all that charisma. And part of this character of Robert Neville is he's like, well, I mean, he's by himself for so long, so he's kind of starting to lose it. He's like talking to himself, talking to his dog, talking to mannequins in the store, that kind of thing. So it's like he doesn't do well with like characters that are conflicted. And I don't know. He tried. I'll give him that.
It almost felt like there's a portion of Will Smith's career where it was like almost like the Tom Hanks rules, where like Will Smith can never do any wrong, and it still kind of abides by that. In I Am Legend, even when he's more brooding or intense, he never really does anything wrong. He never like does something where you start to question, is this guy a good guy?
Yeah.
He's definitely got some social problems. When he actually runs into people, he's just a weirdo for 30 minutes before until the end of the movie.
So the book is pretty interesting. I read the book a while ago. I don't remember everything, but from what I remember, it was a lot slower paced. It was so the reason why it's called I Am Legend. Spoilers for anybody who hasn't read the book yet. But basically, Robert Neville is the antagonist type, or you go about the whole book thinking that he's being hunted by these creatures, whatever, but it turns out that he's the one hunting them, and they see him as this legendary figure within their culture. And so it turns out that like they're all the vampires in this story are afraid of him, and so that's why the book is called I Am Legend or whatever. But this is such a far deviation from the book, and it goes the action film route, horror elements, but I wish that somebody would adapt the book a little bit more faithfully, because I think you can get a really good story out of it. So,
and this movie post-COVID hits a little different, does it not? In 2007, the idea of just an empty New York, nobody's on the streets, there's a disease running rampant, that was fiction. That was far off, but it hits a little more close to home. Now, if for sure, if COVID was turning people into rabid mutant zombies or just killing them, within 24 hours, the world would be vastly different now, because let me say, people did not want to, take their precautions when offered.
So some reasons why we kind of chose this movie, and then next week we're doing 28 Days Later, is that this is not your normal zombie archetype. These are not zombies. They're people that are infected with some type of disease that kind of turns them rabid or whatever.
It's a cancer cure that has turned bad, and it killed a bunch of people, and then the people that survive become what they call in the film
Night Seekers.
Dark Seekers.
Dark Seekers, yeah.
And they are kind of vampiric. They can't come out in the sun.
They get fried up by the sun.
They also fried up by any sort of UV light. UV light is kind of used as a weapon in this film. I Am Legend. It was an interesting look back, and I Am Legend was a big part of my childhood. It was one of those movies that, like, for some reason, I'd watched a lot. That and I, Robot were like the Will Smith movies of choice.
I feel like a lot of us watched I Am Legend because that was the only type of horror movie we were allowed to watch. It wasn't necessarily a horror film, but to us, we were like, this shit is scary, and this is kind of how we get our horror fix. You know what I mean? As children.
Yeah, and it was PG-13, but it didn't include, no nudity, no major gore.
No.
So it passed the sniff test for all the parents.
Yeah.
And
I think that for whatever reason this movie was big with Christians. There was I think because the original had Charlton Heston, and it was Charlton Heston's best known for the Ten Commandments film.
He was Noah.
And so a lot of conservative...
Or not Noah.
Moses.
Moses.
Come on, do you know your Bible there, Michael? A lot of conservative Christians, I guess, kind of grew up with this story, and who knows why they choose what they choose. But I found that funny because my mom allowed me to watch this. So,
shall we move along to our first segment?
It was the performance of a lifetime!
The performance test. And we've already covered this a bit. Will Smith, he's set to intense and brooding mode. He's not Like the part of Will Smith that wants to be like, hey, like still comes out, you know?
Yeah.
Like during when he goes to the video store and he's chopping it up with the various mannequins.
Yeah.
You know, that part of his personality, like, it tries to squeeze out through the edges of this movie, but this movie really wants to tamp down on that and be like, Will Smith, you are a serious military man, serious military scientist, man.
Let's talk about all the accolades that he has, because Will Smith is like the most successful man on earth, apparently.
He's probably won a Grammy. If not, he sold a lot of records.
Well, I mean, in this movie,
Oh.
his accolades, like this guy is he works with infectious diseases. He's like a member of the CDC. He's also a lieutenant or a colonel or a general, whatever the fuck.
I wrote down, what's his job? Military cop doctor?
Yeah, I guess.
He just does everything?
I was like wondering maybe he was a field medic at first, and then he kind of climbed the ranks and he became whatever. But I don't know. He's also John Wick, apparently.
Yeah. So Will Smith, he's also doing science experiments in his basement, and eventually he captures one of the Dark Seekers and is trying to like inject her with the cure. And we see on his wall that he has all these like faces of death of like all the various Dark Seekers he's been experimenting on.
Did we mention that he's immune?
And he's immune to the virus.
It's just like, okay, special boy, right? Yeah.
He's a special boy who's immune to the virus. And when he puts on that lab coat the first time, the mood is very like, what, did somebody hire a stripper? You know, because like, bless Will Smith, he does not come off as an elite intellect.
Yeah.
At any point.
Yeah.
And that's not his role. That's not his game. He is the guy that goes, you know? He's that guy.
And goes on buddy cop adventures, man.
Yeah.
You know?
I need me one of those.
Okay, so before we get too far, then who would be a better actor to play this role?
R.I.P. Heath Ledger. Maybe Heath Ledger.
Maybe Heath Ledger. Maybe Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt is in World War Z and does much of the same thing. Also a guy that if you put him in a lab coat, I'm like, did somebody order a stripper? Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say that. Another zombie boy.
Another zombie boy. Like somebody that, maybe even somebody a little older.
Older, yes.
Like Charlton Heston, I'm pretty sure, and people just aged, you know, in eons because they're all ripping cigarettes all day.
How about a Robert De Niro?
Robert De Niro. I think we're going too old then.
Too old?
For
2008?
Robert De Niro just has so much baggage. I can't imagine him in this. He'd be like, hey, buddy, what are you doing over here? You know?
It's the fucking vampires.
I don't know. You could have cast, what is his name? Captain America?
Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges, he's older. I'm thinking even if we stay like action hero though,
action hero,
like
okay.
Chris Evans.
Yeah,
I think like a young Chris Evans could have handled this.
Yeah, for sure. So you're saying white actors?
What I'm really saying is, if he was white, I could believe he was a scientist.
How about Idris Elba?
Idris Elba would have been perfect.
There you go.
You nailed it. Like Idris Elba can glow up to be intelligent, or he can glow down and be a Baltimore gangster. Either one.
Yeah, for sure.
Believably. Will Smith, he's not transformative. He's just not.
No. But for this, you needed the star power, and I get it. I get why they chose Will Smith.
And every one of these big actors like does at least one. Tom Cruise in Oblivion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, every one of these big actors wants to do like I'm the last man on earth.
Yeah.
Mode movie.
It's definitely a genre for sure. There's so many of these last man on earth films.
I mean, Charlton Heston in Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Damn you all to hell.
Yep. James Franco.
Well, that's just the last man you want on earth. The last man you'd invite to a house where your sister lives. Last man you'd leave alone with a vulnerable adult.
Somebody hide Kim Jong, man. He's not safe.
And let me say, this movie really opens on an excellent commercial for the Ford Mustang GT.
Oh my God, it's shameless.
He's whipping around in it, and man, this isn't even in Let the Hate Flow Through You because I forgive it, but it's like, okay, so he opens and he's deer hunting.
Yeah.
And for centuries, maybe millennia, man has been deer hunting, and the number one way and strategy to hunt a deer is you get some sort of ranged weapon and you hide somewhere, maybe up high or hidden.
And are you loud, like revving an engine?
No. And when you single one out, you take your shot and you hit or you miss, and then you go collect your buck.
Yeah.
This man fucking like
ripping through Times Square.
Yeah. He's like drifting into the deer group, and then he rolls down his window and he's shooting a gun out the window.
It's like a fucking AR.
We're like, what is this? He's doing a drive-by on a flock of deer.
But it looked cool.
And that's the moving ethos of a lot of this movie is, but did it look cool? Because there's a couple moments where you just think about it for 3 seconds. And you're like, wait, how did this happen? While we're on this tip, you want to know another moment that's just a continuity thing that if you think for 3 seconds,
yeah,
and it's one of the other quote unquote cool scenes. Remember when Will Smith has lost his mind? And he sets up like the dummy on the pier where he usually hangs out, and you see all the dark seekers start like shambling out onto the pier to go attack him. And then suddenly a car's lights turn on and revs, which is directly behind the dark seekers, right where they had just been walking through.
Oh, I always thought he was off to the side, but I guess you're right. He was literally right behind them.
He's literally right behind on the pier. So either somehow he's like rolling his car up, like pushing it like Little Miss Sunshine. Like he's pushing his car up so it makes no noise so he can be right behind them and rev it and blast the lights. Just continuity wise, they would have had to shamble right past his car.
Unless he put that little liquid stuff around.
I don't know. But the car should have been in the shot where we saw it before, but it's not. Just another minor nitpick.
That's actually really funny. I never noticed that. Yeah. There's a few scenes I like with him though. I like the scene where it's usually when he's not talking. I think that's usually when. But I love the scene where he's like playing golf on the aircraft carrier or whatever. It's just a nice little scene. Yeah. There's nothing going on in that scene.
Yeah, the middle portion of this movie that's a lot of just dicking about in the apocalypse.
Yeah.
That is a lot of the best stuff. Like when Sam runs off.
Yes.
Sam, our great co-star, the dog.
Very tense scene.
He runs into a building, and Will Smith is like, "Whoa, don't go in there." And at this point in the movie, if it's not your first time watching, you don't know why we can't go in the buildings. You know something's afoot, surely.
Right.
And as he's just like in the pitch black, the only light is the one at the barrel of his gun, and he keeps doing this thing where he covers it up with his hand and then peeks out and then covers it back up with his hand.
Yep.
And the one time he does it, and there's just a bunch of just like sweaty, glistening bodies standing and like
breathing
really heavy, all just like kind of head down, tense there. And that moment is
tense.
It's tense. It's scary, and it's effective.
Yeah.
The most effective stuff in this movie, I think, is the way they've designed those monsters and the way they move.
Super aggressive. Yeah.
Yeah. And just everything involved with that.
The hell are you doing out here, Fred? What the hell are you? No! 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 What the hell are you doing out here, Fred? How did you get out here? Fred, if you're real, you better tell me right now. If you're real, you better tell me right now. Damn it, Fred! Damn it!
Can we just shout out, what the hell are you doing out here, Fred?
Great scene, yes.
And
That's
also,
probably like the most popular scene in this movie.
Yeah. Will Smith comes upon one of his mannequins has been misplaced, and it turns out the Darkseekers are learning to set traps and have set a trap for him. Will Smith doesn't know it. He approaches it. He gets caught up in the trap. He's dangled from the rope.
Yeah.
By his leg. He cuts himself loose and
falls on his knife.
So he's stabbed in the leg. They need to get home because dusk is setting, and they have the perfect line of sunlight that goes across the road that's like slowly shrinking as the like demon dogs are getting set to attack him.
Yep.
And the dog attack is intense. You love Sam. You don't want Sam to get hurt. You know, Sam's vulnerable. Will Smith is
he's immune.
He's immune, so he can get bit, and as long as he doesn't die from his injuries, he will recover. But
so that's something we don't see a whole lot is like infected animals in zombie stuff. which is like a cool thing because if you think about it, it's like you're in that situation. Not only are humans infected, but animals too. It's time to just.
Your dog could have caught COVID from you.
Yeah, there was a tiger that caught COVID at some zoo. That's pretty crazy. I'm trying to think of. I mean, there really wasn't any other actors up until the end of the film. I mean, you get some flashback sequences.
Can we shout out Smith being whisked away in the helicopter?
Being an annoying fucking kid the entire movie.
Look, Daddy, a butterfly.
I don't know about you, but I was very happy when that helicopter exploded.
I clapped.
Look, Daddy, I'm a butterfly.
Now you're flying through the sky in little chunks.
That's fucked up. But I think maybe our best co-star in this is the dog, Sam. Whoever trained that dog well. And that's like the whole where all the emotions come from.
And
the dog.
The woke police would have came for this character because he calls it Sam the whole time, and then eventually near the end of the menu he reveals that it's Samantha.
They're like, of course it had to be a woman.
It's a trans dog, obviously.
It's a non-binary dog, okay?
Yeah, it's a Mary Sue. We don't know why. Why is this dog so good at shit?
No, it was and I think that's like also one of the most. It's a gut-wrenching scene, and it's also another big popular scene is when he has to put down Sam because Sam gets infected and is turning, and he's like stroking her lovingly. Holy shit! And he moves his hand and like her fur is falling out and stuff, and you're just like, oh damn, man, not Sam.
Yeah, it starts bleeding from the eyes.
Yeah.
And we had to put down Sam. That is probably one of the roughest dog put-down scenes
for sure
I've ever seen.
For sure.
And then Will Smith's tranquility gets invaded by this child who loves Shrek and
and rip off. What is that? The Fast and Furious chick's name?
No idea, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking
about. And religious nut
that's where the Christian angle comes from. And I think that's why, a lot of Christians like this movie is because they mention God.
So Will Smith is putting out this radio signal where he's like, I'm Dr. Robert Neville. I can provide you safety and security. I'm working on a cure, and I'm here. And apparently Alice and Charlie are the name of the actors. Anna and Ethan arrive. One day they rescue Will Smith on that pier as he's about to just die, getting his car smashed in.
Yes.
They drive in with their UV lights. They rescue him. He wakes up. They're cooking his good bacon, and they get.
That was a great scene, though. And he was like, I was saving that bacon. I would have been pissed, too.
And proceeds just like our odd couple dynamic for like 30 minutes, where Will Smith mostly just wanders around and is like, I don't know about all these people coming over here.
Talking about my bacon.
And, or the other goal, Charlie's watching Shrek. And Will Smith just starts doing all the donkey lines.
Like Shrek. Shrek! I love Shrek. What is he saying? It's like, when I get home, I'm making waffles.
This feels like Will Smith, like wish casting himself into the Shrek movies. Like he's like, I could have gotten that role.
I wanted to be Donkey so bad.
I wanted to be Donkey. I needed that check. And this is when the movie, I feel like, kind of falls off a cliff. Is like they're just not cooking with anything there.
No.
There's not a lot to it. Will Smith's character is still kind of like two-dimensional as far as we've seen him. There's good scenes, right. But there's not a lot of like there for him. And then once we introduce these two other characters, it's just kind of weirdly standoffish. And then I guess eventually decides they're fine, and then the movie ends.
It would have been better if the mom ended up dying somehow, and it was just him and the kid.
Yeah, shake up the dynamic somehow.
Yeah. And then he has to learn to, find something else to fight for. And then maybe he reminds him of his daughter.
Yeah.
Different stuff.
You know what I valued in Ethan, the son?
He was quiet.
Yeah, didn't talk.
That's how most child actors should be.
Children should be seen, not heard. Okay? And good on him.
Yeah.
I mean, I would hope your child would find, children would adapt and shut up during the apocalypse. But I'm not feeling like... really I don't actually believe that would happen.
I don't know if they adapt. Maybe they're just in constant shock.
I was kind of expecting the speak no evil twist where he just opens his mouth and his tongue has been chopped out. That's
yeah.
that's what happens to the little boy in Speak No Evil. Spoilers, kind of, but it's also in every single trailer for that movie.
And that's basically it. Yeah, you just get some flashback scenes with some extras, and actually, the scene where they're all at the what is it, Brooklyn Bridge or something, all those extras and shit. That's a really intense scene. There's like a woman bleeding from her eyes, and like the people are getting checked for infection.
Yeah,
that was like a pretty good scene. I don't know. I kind of wish that was like the starting point for the movie. I get why you needed those flashbacks and stuff, but sometimes I like to see the not a lot of zombie movies like show the initial infection stuff.
Yeah,
and I like that kind of thing because I don't know. I just find that entertaining more so than just Last Man on Earth. I have to scrounge around kind of thing. I want to see people really like running out of the city or trying to find a way out. I don't know. Let's move on to It's an Art.
What's this?
It's an art project.
Okay, I like it. Picasso. Yeah, that way.
It's an Art is where we're going to talk about aspects of the filmmaking process, effects, certain shots that we like, music, whatever comes to mind. The big magic trick of this movie is we're exploring an empty New York.
Yeah.
And this is done mostly through
green screen,
lots of CGI, and lots of like paint outs. There is certain sections of the city that I believe they did like shut down briefly, so it could be pretty empty. But there's still just they're adding a lot of texture. They're adding like grass and foliage that's shooting up through the concrete as the nature takes the city back.
Did you see the Batman v Superman cameo little sign thing, the little Easter egg?
Is this in Times Square somewhere?
But this was way before the Zack Snyder shit. So it was like a precursor. It fucking, I don't know. It knew.
Like
they knew it was coming.
They knew they would make a Batman vs Superman crossover movie. How could they possibly know that? I think like the around the edges effects. I think we agree that the Dark Seekers at different times look kind of bad, but the around the edges effects I think are mostly like pretty good, especially for something in the mid 2000s. Like there are movies that look a lot worse and have aged a lot worse that are so overrun with these effects.
Yeah,
and I think some of that is to the credit of Francis Lawrence. We haven't mentioned his name yet. That's the director, and he seems to be sort of a specialist in these types of movies. You were looking up his IMDb, and like the movie before this is Constantine, which is Keanu Reeves also fighting vampires. So same diff, and then he moves on to do like all the Hunger Games sequels. So it seems like sort of these higher budget blockbusters.
Yeah,
he makes them work.
Yeah. I thought this was the dullest looking movie I've ever seen.
Really?
Yes, I did not care for any of it visually. I don't know. This movie did not age well, and I will say that.
A lot of the mid 2000s is just this disgusting splooge of CG effects that have not aged spectacularly.
No. And another thing that it grinds my gears all the time. Stop showing your monster, man. Especially if it's a shitty CGI monster, they look the best when they're in the darkness. The whole scene with him and Sam running through that apartment building or whatever, that was the best scene involving those creatures. It's because you didn't see them. That makes it more effective, more scary. Just the name itself, Dark Seekers or whatever, that should be its thing. You should never see the full body thing. And then immediately after that scene, you have one of them laying on the table, and he's like inspecting it or whatever. And then it's like, okay, well, this is not scary anymore. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I somewhat agree with you. I just think this type of movie is like, it just is. It's going for like more action than horror.
Right.
So like at the end we have a big like Dark Seeker invasion of Will Smith's house. Yeah. And I found some of that stuff, like I'm not scared necessarily, but I do enjoy how just ramped up and intense all the monsters are.
Yeah.
The way that they move.
Super aggressive.
They're super just like aggressive and intense movements. And their agility, the way they'll just like jump 10 feet like it's nothing. I think the movie we'll be reviewing next week, 28 Days Later, tries to like do the same idea, but just practically with like extras wigging out. And I think, at least for me, it's more effective for them to be these CGI monsters that are capable of being like superhuman.
Yeah.
like extraordinary capabilities, where it really feels like 5 of them in your house, even if you have a gun, is like actually really bad for you.
Yeah, yeah.
So I do generally agree with the sort of like Jaws, keep the monster hidden for as long as possible. And this movie has a lot of just like sort of money shots of the monsters. We see like during the scene where Will Smith's captured, we see sort of the head one holding the dogs on a chain, and they kind of have like a face off before he lets them loose to go after him.
Yeah.
There's a lot more like, and I think they're half-assedly setting up the thing that you mentioned in the book, where like the Darkseekers actually have this society. This headman has a personal grudge against Will Smith, actually.
It took his wife,
but it none of it gets spelled out enough in the movie, and we can talk about the 2 different endings. The ending completely just kind of upends what the point of the book was,
right?
And tries to recontextualize the whole "I am legend" thing to mean something different than it did originally.
Right.
Should we talk about the endings now?
Yeah, let's get to that. That is a big dog. Sorry.
My neighbor dog.
Yeah. So there are 2. There's one theatrical ending, and then there's an alternate ending. The alternate ending is Will Smith giving back the Darkseeker that he had captured to the Alpha or whatever. And the theatrical version is him sacrificing himself. He has the people that meet up with him later on go into like a crawl space, takes out a grenade, and he blows himself up basically.
Which, just funny detail for that, he just like starts rummaging in a drawer that otherwise just has papers in it, but it has one
grenade,
one loose grenade.
Yeah.
Good thing I have my grenade in this drawer.
I mean, he was a thought out planned guy, so it wasn't out the realm of possibility. But I mean,
yeah, Will pulls the pin, holds it, and takes everyone
up.
down with him.
And I guess that ending it did better in test screenings, and I was watching some behind the scenes, and it did better in test screenings, and but the director really wanted that alternate ending.
Yeah. Which I don't know if this movie, one of the good graces of this movie is it's not too long. It's like an hour 35 or something. And I don't actually know, but I wonder if there's a more fleshed out version shot or a fleshed out version in the script that gives a little more weight to the like both sides of this coin.
Right.
And shows them to be the Darkseekers to be a little more intelligent. In this cut of the movie, having that ending, if you don't have that outside context and you're just watching it, you may be watching it and going like, wait, what the hell just happened?
Right.
Because most of what we see is these animals, these Darkseekers, they seem intense and maybe some intelligence, but we mostly see them just raging out and ripping shit apart and being feral.
Yeah.
Is mostly what we see them do.
So in the book, I know that the Darkseekers, they capture Robert and they bring him back to their lair or wherever they stay. And they're walking him through like a crowd of the vampires, and they're all like cowering in fear and stuff because he's been hunting these things for so long. And I wish they would have did that route where it's like, that's when it would be the message would be conveyed a little bit better. But instead we got this ending, and I think it was fine. Yeah. I don't really care for it. I don't really feel 2 ways about it. So,
do we think, when the society falls and crumbles and whatever comes up after that begins, will Shrek still be an icon?
Probably. Because
Shrek is one of the surviving things in Will Smith. His whole personality is I like Shrek and I like Bob Marley.
Yeah.
Also,
just the one Bob Marley song, though.
Yeah, the one that everybody knows. He's my favorite artist. Let's listen to the one Bob Marley song that everybody knows.
I think.
Also, I'm going to my hate right away. What the hell is with Anna, or the woman, not knowing who Bob Marley is? They're apparently about the same age.
Yeah, I was like,
Bob Marley,
even put that in there?
Like, not a deep cut.
No.
Even if you don't listen to Bob Marley, you know who Bob Marley is. He's on T-shirts.
Yeah.
And
him and weed are pretty synonymous.
Yeah. It's like, what the hell? And I'm pretty sure she says, you mean Damien? So she's heard of Damian Marley, but not Bob Marley? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, that was the most unbelievable aspect of this film.
This whole movie didn't,
This whole movie about vampiric cancer monsters. The most unbelievable thing was this woman not knowing Bob Marley.
Take it away whenever you're ready.
All right, let me just get that last measurement on your
Thank you. You know, I need this for the wedding.
Okay, well,
I need it really quickly. Like
it could take about a week to do.
It could take a week.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are you trying to say? He's trying to say that I'm so big, my bum is so big, you need to order to various countries far away to get enough material to make a pair of pants so I can fit my incredibly obese buttocks into a pair of your specially made little suit.
No, I mean I'm the only one working here this week.
Oh, okay.
Let's go to hate flow through, or wait.
Go to, hey, what are you trying to say?
Yeah.
I mean, this is classic. Just what does isolation do to a man? Mm-hmm. This man is he's losing his marbles slowly. It becomes more apparent once he's around other people and he has to live outside of his little scheduled routine.
Yeah.
That he's just like, it's kind of I forgot or maybe never realized when a kid how much of just a weird, intense person he is once other people arrive,
right?
And like how antisocial and incapable of like sharing space with other people he's become.
Which is funny because he does that whole broadcast thing where he wants people to come,
right?
So when they actually do arrive, he's acting like a dick.
It's me anytime I make plans.
It could be also like, social anxiety. When you go outside, all you see is monsters.
Is this film about mental health?
And I don't know. Maybe. Do you think this movie reinforces anti-vaxxers?
Oh, shit, probably. Actually.
That's the other conservative angle about this.
That's a core, what's the word? Is a frequently covered trope in apocalypse movies is the newscast involving an expert describing a thing that's about to go downhill.
Yeah.
There's like the exact same scene in the first 5 minutes of The Last of Us.
Oh, yeah.
Where they're like, what if mushrooms attach to brains? That'll never happen.
You ever heard of cordyceps?
One little thing that I do like, and this isn't really a hey, what you're trying to say, is that Will Smith's character has just taped a bunch of just like, it's like Good Morning America.
Yeah.
Tapes. It's like morning news.
Yeah.
That he watches as like comfort food every morning.
I feel like I do the same thing.
He puts it on to make it just seem like, oh, it's a normal day outside with
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah. I like those little touches.
It's something I kind of did during COVID. It wasn't that, but I like rewatched old March Madness games and like old like big events where it was like, oh, everybody's having fun here and they were all together.
Or like, what if you put on like during COVID, you're sitting having a drink and you put on bar ambience? I don't know. Just little stuff like that.
The bar ambience playlist just every like 12 minutes has some loud person that goes like, don't touch me, motherfucker.
That's a Minneapolis bar ambience. Yeah. I don't think as far as themes go, I don't think this is really saying too much.
It's not a film with much depth, so we can move along.
Oh, maybe DEI though?
Oh, yeah.
Because, he was higher up in government.
Only way he could have became a scientist, really.
Is if he volunteered and was in a program, obviously.
We should have met the older, like elderly white general that was like, this is my good friend, William. He's so smart.
Now you guys be nice to him, okay? We'll show him the ropes, all right? William.
I guess it's Robert. Bobby,
yeah.
This is Bobby Neville.
Bobby Neville.
He gives him a noogie.
Let's move on to let the hate flow through.
This is where we're going to air out our annoyances and our complaints. Anna is a religious nut.
Yeah.
My problem with it is more that this is not a character that gets any more depth to it, and it's an argument that kind of goes nowhere because I believe it gets interrupted by the Darkseeker attack as he's doing the like. So Anna's like, "Oh, you gotta have hope. I believe in God." I'm paraphrasing, and Will Smith is like, 90% of the world's dead, and probably so is God, so fuck you, is kind of his whole vibe.
Yeah.
It just doesn't go anywhere.
No.
It's totally just plate spinning to get another, like, 5 minutes. Like, I don't know if there's a cut arc somewhere with this in the script or in the filming, but as it exists, it's just like, why are we even doing this right here?
And his whole turning point is because he, like, sees, like, a Rorschach fucking condensation on the glass that resembles a fucking butterfly, and apparently that just reminds him of his daughter, and then that's his whole motivation for sacrificing himself. I don't really get it.
Yeah, it's because the Darkseeker is smashing the glass that they are behind with his head, and it's breaking and crumbling into the form of a butterfly.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah.
Also, not a thing that is actually, like, I think I read that because that's not a thing I actually connected ever in my, like, dozen time watching this movie.
Well, it said, "Look, Daddy, it's a butterfly."
Did it cut back? Did they do the little cut back?
Well, they did the voiceover with,
"Look, Daddy, it's a butterfly."
Yeah. Yeah.
Good thing she said that earlier in the car.
Well, and also the Christian angle, the wife gives him a crucifix, like a necklace. And she's like, it's a good luck charm or to keep you safe or whatever.
He's
and
like,
that's the
cool,
whole...
I'll blow myself up in it.
And so then Anna had to be the Christian nut to remind him of his faith. I don't know. I don't understand why that was a thing. I really don't.
So pointless. The alternate ending is better than the theatrical ending. We've already covered it, but it just is. I think I covered a lot of my hate already. Bob Marley, car attack doesn't make any sense. I think that's about all I have.
Some bad CGI here and there. Sometimes the monsters' mouths, like, they open really wide and it just looks so ugly. I don't know. I just noticed that towards the end when the roid monster was, like, raging out or whatever, the alpha.
Yeah.
It just looked bad.
Yeah.
I don't care for this movie.
I would call this a movie of all time.
Yes, it's definitely a movie.
I was not mad at it for wasting my time,
no.
But it skated, like, just above that edge. Like, the perfect, like, between a 2.5 and, like, 3 out of 5-star movies where I'm like, this is totally acceptable.
Yeah.
I have not gotten mad at it quite yet.
Well, I mean, this movie it's definitely watchable, but it's just so funny because this just harkens back to a time where, like, these types of movies just existed and they were pumped out a lot. And I think it's just due to the fact that this was pre-social media. And then also, Netflix wasn't around. You didn't have all these shows that were streaming constantly. Yeah. So really the only form of, like, media entertainment, if you wanted of that kind of, like, caliber, was films. And so obviously these types of movies were just being pumped out a lot more. But just the quality aspect of it.
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't in line with, like, I mean, there's movies from 2008 that look leagues better than this. I can't name any for you right now. Maybe like a Pirates of the Caribbean film or, just big blockbusters of that time.
Yeah.
This reminds me of, like, Transformers or something. It just has that quality to it that I just loathe.
And I think this movie is not quite as high budget as, like, those Transformers movies. It really is. I do think all these, like, solo Will Smith movies are kind of all in their same caliber, where most of them are, like, kind of okay, like iRobot.
I had fun with Hancock.
Hancock, yeah.
Is a fun movie.
But none of them have aged that well, and they don't have, like, a lot of, like, cultural cachet. Like, of those three, I think probably I Am Legend is the one that has stood the test of time the most, or at least people remember the most. Yeah.
But they're all massive hits, though.
Yeah.
Like, iRobot was a huge thing. I remember when that came out, and, like, everybody was talking about it. Yeah. It's interesting. It was just, you had to be there, I guess. Maybe because we do have this kind of subcategory that we don't use too often, but you had to be there for this kind of thing. It just was, I don't know. It's not going to hit the same 20 years after the fact, I don't know.
And we still had decided, like, Will Smith was still cool then.
Yes. And now, okay, so we can get into some of that now, too. Because Will Smith, there's a lot of controversy around Will Smith. Obviously, the big thing that happened at the Oscars with the slap with Chris Rock, his weird relationship with Jada Pinkett.
Yeah.
Also, like, his weird kind of, like, relationship with a lot of people.
And his kids.
And his children are strange. They're like Nepo babies, but they're magnified times 10 and they're like emo weirdos.
Do you remember Will Smith being the first person in like the YouTube Wrapped 2009 or whatever? You know, like he was this person that was like very online. Like they had their own, I think, YouTube reality series. The Smiths did for a while.
And then Jada Pinkett had that Red Table.
She has her Red Table Talks. They had one post slap eventually.
Yeah,
that's the one where you got the meme image of him like half crying about. I mean, this man apparently is just being cucked constantly, it seems like.
Well, I heard that they're in like a polygamous relationship or whatever, so there's just a lot of fucking around. Apparently, he was with Margot Robbie for a while, and I was like, you should have stayed with that, buddy. But
they were in a movie together.
They were, and I think there was some weird stuff with them.
Interesting.
I don't know. Will Smith, he's the classic case of like tarnishing a legacy. You know, he's not up to par with like Bill Cosby by any means. Not yet. We haven't heard anything yet.
You know whose career you can parallel this with? Jamie Foxx. Musicians, black men, black movie stars. And their careers have like had a different trajectory where like Will Smith was like at the peak for so long, and now he's kind of tapered off where it's like what would you do to cast Will Smith in a movie today? Like what kind of movie would that be?
Right.
What part would it be? I'm like, they're doing the Bad Boys sequels, but like,
well, because he's
that doesn't fit him being 50, 60, whatever age he is anymore. You know?
Well, it's like, and also too. It's just like he's one of those actors where you just only see Will Smith. You never see him truly become another character.
But like Jamie Foxx can become the pimp in They Clone Tyrone.
He can become Ray Charles, literally.
Yeah.
Ray Charles. Like, yeah.
He has a lot of range and he can adapt. And like every time I see Jamie Foxx in a movie, I'm like, man, this guy's so cool. But he also transforms.
Yes.
He becomes whatever character and brings that charisma with him.
He's just so talented too. Like, just such a talented guy.
And like Will Smith is like Disney Ray Charles. Like he's the cornier and just maybe a little bit less talented version.
Yeah. And I think it's because part of it is like we grew up seeing Will Smith as like the cool guy. He gets all the women in every film he's in.
Yeah.
He never looks weak. He drives the nice cars. He's just the cool guy. And then you see him do something that's not cool, which is like the smacker being a cuck. And then you're like, oh, well, this just ruins my entire image of Will Smith. I don't want to see anything with him anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And maybe, if you're looking too hard into it, that's how you see it. But that, I mean, personally for me, I've never thought he was that great of an actor to begin with. So.
Yeah, the smack isn't even like some, like, I'm not like, whoa, what a moral issue the smack was.
Because Concussion came out before that.
You tell the truth.
You tell the truth. Tell the truth.
But now it's like, the movies he's tried to do even more recently, it's like King Charles.
Yeah, and you know what? He got the Oscar for that one.
Yeah, he won the Oscar the same night he rocked the fuck out of Chris Rock.
And I've never seen that movie. I'm sure he did great. Whatever, but that's his first Oscar, I think.
Yeah.
No.
But it's like, I just don't, he's not that draw anymore, certainly, and I don't know what you cast him in to, like, be that guy. No. He might need to do, and I don't know if he has it in him or even a thing he would want to do, because he's always seemed kind of like a blockbuster guy, is like, The Rock is making a new movie with Benny Safdie. The Uncut Gems, one half of the duo that made Uncut Gems. And feels like that's going to be like The Rock's re-entry into being like, I am an actor.
Yes.
I'm not just a man that stars in Jumanji 3 with Kevin Hart.
But he's also in like 4 movies a year.
Yeah.
So that kind of undercuts even that.
Well, I'm just saying Will Smith, I don't know, maybe he could make that A24 movie and reinvent himself somehow.
But I think that one
career.
Film was his A24.
King Richard?
King Richard, yeah.
No.
I think it's been there, done that. I think it's over.
Maybe
Sometimes that happens.
Also, you've had like a 30-year entertainment career. Maybe you can just fade into obscurity.
He was in some of the biggest movies ever made.
Yeah.
Like Independence Day was, that movie sucks ass, but it was the biggest movie of 1999 or wherever the fuck it came out. Like, yeah. So, and he was in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which is a great sitcom. It's a classic sitcom. So, I don't know. And that's the Will Smith I like. The funny guy,
All right, should we ask our final question?
Let's do it.
Is this a perfect movie?
You lost a baby brother. Perfect in every way. I had a baby brother. I had a little baby brother, and he was perfect. Perfect in every way.
No.
No.
Nope, it's not.
And that's okay. You know, this movie, like we said, is a big part of our childhood. I definitely will always remember what this movie is and remember like pretty much every scene. And now it's time to move on.
I hear it, and then in my head, I hear, "Hey, Fred, what the hell you doing out here, Fred?"
Did you notice in that scene when he's driving up that the mannequin's head moves, like kind of signifying that he was like hallucinating or something? I thought that was
apparently,
interesting choice.
And this is just IMDb trivia, so it could be made up. Apparently, in that scene, it's a mime, not a mannequin, which is why it moves slightly.
Interesting.
I don't know why you would do that. Seems like you would just have a mannequin.
And do the effect in post.
But let me not tell Francis Lawrence, director of
that guy made the Hunger Games.
The Hunger
dude.
Games
Come
Catching
on.
Fire. The Hunger Games, a ballad of songbirds and snakes. Let me not tell him how to do his job.
Do you blame George Lucas for the shitty CGI stuff?
No, I think it was inevitable.
You
I
think
mean,
so?
he was king of. He was just always head first of.
But once one person makes that shortcut, one person goes down that road, then it causes it's a domino effect.
Yeah, but it was gonna happen. Like, they'd been doing this stuff. George Lucas was just like, what if my whole movie was blue screen?
I just want to blame George Lucas for everything.
I mean, we can. I mean, we won't bother him while he's sitting alone at his table at the mall eating his Panda Express.
Watching Red Tails on his phone.
This was my masterpiece. Dipping orange chicken
he
into his
turns around
mouth.
to the person, have you seen this film? I made it.
It's really excellent. Now I'm just at home working on my personal films.
Are those ever going to see the light of day?
No.
Probably not.
No.
I heard you saw a Francis Ford Coppola film.
Oh, I watched Megalopolis. We'll save that for our year-end review, but let me just say, Kaylin, Megalopolis is like, what if you combined a Neil Breen movie
Oh, God.
with The Phantom Menace,
Oh, my God.
and you put them together?
That sounds amazing.
It's really funny.
That sounds so great.
It's not a good movie, but boy, was I entertained. Sometimes it's hilarious on purpose.
Is it just Francis Ford being up his own ass the entire time?
Like, yes, it definitely feels like a movie that a man has spent 30 years thinking about, and not like in an ordered way. And like,
Right.
I have all these ideas. It feels like a movie written and directed by the man that wanted to kiss all his hot extras on the mouth. It's a weird one.
Starring Adam Driver, right?
Adam Driver.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a $200 million Neil Breen film is what it is, starring like Giancarlo Esposito and a bunch of the best actors available.
Did Adam Driver ever get an Oscar for, what is it, Marriage Story?
You mean for his great turn as Kylo Ren?
Oh, obviously.
In The
Yeah.
Rise of Skywalker?
How could I forget?
Remember when they kiss?
I do remember that scene. That was a
I
great
went,
scene. That was my favorite. You remember the part where the old lady was like, what is your name? She's like, or no. She was like, I'm Ray. And then the old lady was like, Ray who?
And she went, Ray Charles.
And then she waited like 5 minutes thinking about it. She was like, Skywalker. Boom, roll credits. Dun, dun. Wait, no, I was doing the Jurassic Park thing.
I'm going to bury his lightsaber right next to where his uncle and aunt burned to a crisp.
They don't even know who I am. But I know them. Anyways, let's not get into Star Wars. Next week, we're doing 28 Days Later, starring Cillian Murphy. That should be an interesting one. Stay tuned until then.
Yeah. One of the main theories of this podcast, I think, has slowly grown to be that everything ties back to one of two things, Star Wars or 9/11. And next week, we'll be talking about 9/11. So look forward to that.
Okay.
It's rewind time. If I control rewind, I would want Fortnite and Marquez Brownlee.